Good morning, folks. Welcome back. This is another video in our Weekly Neovim Plugin series, where we are covering one Neovim plugin per week. So I try to post a video every Friday, and this week we're going to be covering a very popular Neovim plugin called telescope.nvim. And it's hard for me to say if this is my favorite plugin, but I would say it's definitely in the top 3. What is Telescope? Well, Telescope advertises itself as a fuzzy finder over lists, a picker, a sorter, a previewer. And it's hard to really visualize or imagine what that looks like without any kind of demonstration. So let's hop over to their GitHub repository over here on the right, and let's take a look at this really cool image that they have here. So I'll turn off my camera real quick, and let's look at what's going on here. So he's looking at a list of results on the left, and on the right there's a preview window. And you'll notice that all of this is just a list of files. So he's hitting a hotkey, and it's populating with a list of files in the current working directory, and on the right is a preview of that file. So this allows you to easily jump between different files in your workspace. So Telescope is very feature rich. So there's a lot of things that you can search or you can preview, and it doesn't have to be just files. So in this video, we're gonna look at how to install Telescope with Packer, how to configure it. There's some key mappings that you need to configure manually that I would recommend. And we're also gonna look at usage. And there's some really cool commands that I think you'd really like when we get to the usage. But with that said, let's go ahead and hop in. All right, so as usual, we'll start in my init.lua file. And in my init.lua file, you'll notice I have 2 lines, one of them called require plugins and another one called require plugin configs. Require plugins is where I keep all of my use directives for my plugins. So let's go ahead and hop into that file. Go to Lua and then plugins. And then I'm going to fold all of these code lines like I've done in the past. So I'm only looking at the top level code lines. The plugin I'm using for that is UFO. And then I'm going to go all the way to the bottom here. To install Telescope, we're going to need these lines here. So I'm going to go ahead and uncomment these using the comment plugin that we talked about last week. So that's GC. And then here you can see we're taking the Telescope plugin from GitHub, telescope.nvim, and it requires the planary.nvim plugin. So we put those directives in there, and then not only do you have to tell Packer to install that plugin, but you also have to configure it. So that where I keep all of my configuration is in plugin configs. And the reason I separate it out like this is so I can drop in any other plugin manager that I want in the future. So if I wanted to switch over to Lazy, I could do that. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and fold these lines as well. And you can see here at the very bottom, I have a require telescope.setup invocation. So I'm going to go ahead and uncomment that using our comment plugin. So that's GCC. And save it. All right. And there's one more thing I would recommend doing here, and that's setting your key maps. So I keep all of my key mappings in a file called keymappings.lua. So let's go and head over to that file. Scroll down and uncomment all of these lines of code starting from local built-in. So that's GC. And I require telescope.builtin and set some hotkeys here, being leader FF and then leader FG, FB, and FH. So the commands that we're going to be demonstrating in this video are find files, live grep, buffer, and help tags. And I think you'll find these commands very useful. They're really cool. All right, so save that as well. And go ahead and reload Neovim. It's going to give me this message saying module telescope not found. That's okay because we're trying to configure it before it's installed. So hit Q there to get rid of that message, and then go into command mode and type packer install. So that will tell Packer to look at our plugins.lua file. It'll recognize that new plugin telescope and try to install it. So in this case, it was successful, and we can go ahead and quit that video or quit that pop-up there and go ahead and reload Neovim. And here we are. Cool. So all of my key mappings should work now. So I should mention that once you have Telescope installed, it's good to run what they call check health. Check health Telescope. That'll run some basic health checks against Telescope. So you can see here, Planary is installed. That was a dependency. Tree Sitter is installed. That's also a dependency. We talked about Tree Sitter a few videos ago and how Tree Sitter can be used for better syntax highlighting. So in this case, I think Telescope uses Tree Sitter to do syntax highlighting in its preview window. And also it's checking some external dependencies. ripgrep is found. You do need a ripgrep in order to use the live grep functionality of Telescope. So I'd recommend installing ripgrep on your system. I've already done that here. And it also is looking for FD. We don't need FD. It uses, for me, it's going to use the underlying find command to find files. So looking good here. I'm going to go ahead and quit this. And let's go ahead and hop into some useful commands. Cool. So normally in the past, what I've done is to navigate files, I've opened up this NVim tree plugin here to get a tree layout of my workspace. Go into Lua and then hit enter to enter one of these files. But with Telescope, that can be a lot faster. So instead of depending on this tree structure view, I can hit my leader key FF for find files, and this little layout is going to pop up. So on the left, you see the results of my workspace, of all of the files in my workspace, and on the right, you have a really cool file preview. So if I wanted to go into Lua's .color scheme, I just hit enter, and it'll automatically take me to that file. Now I'm going to do space FF again. Space is my leader key, so leader FF in this case. And then if I wanted to open up, say, plugins.lua in a split, I can do Control V. Oh, excuse me, let's do that again. Control V. So here we have plugins.lua opened up in a split now, which is really cool. So you can navigate files a lot faster with Telescope. So I'm going to go ahead and close color scheme. And let's go ahead and look at some other cool functionalities. There's one called live grep. This is the feature that requires ripgrep installed on your system. And for that, we've set our hotkey to be leader FG. And now it's going to expect you to type something. So I'm going to type telescope. And it's going to grep through all of the files in your workspace to find the string telescope. And as you can see here, there's a preview of that file as well. So we have it in plugins.lua, plugin configs, key mappings, and 2 places in key mappings. So it's really cool. You can live grep across all your workspace and then jump to that file very quickly, or open up a split with that file very quickly. Okay, well, let's go into key mappings. And then we haven't talked about buffers yet, but you can also list buffers in Neovim by doing telescope list, I think it's telescope buffers, and that'll give a list of all of the buffers that you have opened. So these are all the files that I've opened in the past. So you can traverse, or you can navigate through these files a lot quicker. So that's another really cool command. Another command is telescope help tags. I think this is useful, especially if you want to know what command does what. So in this case, if I wanted some help instructions on telescope, and if you wanted to read more about these commands like telescope.builtin, you can use Telescope help tags to search through the help documentation. So let's go to telescope.builtin, and you can see here I have the docs open, and it was really quick for me to search those docs. Another really neat command, I'll quit that there, is spell suggest. So say, this happens to me all the time actually. Say you just don't know how to spell a certain word, like asynchronous. I never know how to spell this. I'm going to purposely misspell it there for the purpose of this demonstration. And then here I can do telescope spell suggest, and it'll give you some spelling suggestions. So let's go ahead and hit enter, and it'll automatically resolve that spelling error. All right, Telescope is very feature rich. I would say that it's worth spending the time looking through all of the pickers, the sorters, and the previewers that are out there that use Telescope, because there are a lot of really cool ones that are worth checking out. But I'll leave that for you guys to do on your own time. That has been our weekly Neovim plugin video. I hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Alex Cantu, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.